So this is the first live Ret Q&A that I've done this year, as in 2007. For those who haven't done these before, basically it's actual discussion. It's just an old discussion for Retribution Paladins. There's sometimes people throw in a few questions. There is actually a question someone is throwing in, although it's a really awkward one. And just to talk about what's going on with Ret at the moment, and what's going on with Ret at the moment is quite a lot. So, it's not what we're going to end up talking about is not necessarily what I envisaged talking about when I was thinking of what date to do this, because I sort of knew I sort of wanted to do it based upon 7.1.5 because there were going to be like enough changes. But then I thought, well, Nighthold's coming out. There's no point in doing one then and then I'd have to do another one straight after Nighthold. So I guess what we start off with are thoughts around trinkets again. Trinkets has been an issue that's come up quite a lot in Legion. Obviously, I mean, applies to any class. One thing about trinkets is that because of Titan forging, you can get really good trinkets in dungeons that can be better than the raid ones. But now in Nighthold, where it looked like there was a couple of really good trinkets to get there, for Raiders' point of view, then that's obviously preferable because it means you don't have to hope to get lucky. Like I was just completing my plus 15 last night, so I know that in my weekly cash next week, I'll get a 900 item level, and you're just thinking, oh, what if it's a faulty countermeasure or a Horn of Valor? I'd actually now going to say I'd probably prefer the Horn of Valor. The idea of just having something that boosts your stats is going to be preferable anyway, I think. But now they're saying that they're going to be changing Convergence of Fates for next reset. We just don't know how yet. What they're going to have to do it very quickly though, because I mean the Mythic comes out on Tuesday in North America. It's the weekend now. I mean, I'm sure they were sent away over the weekend. 920. You can get a 925 faulty countermeasure potentially. You can go up to Titanfall up to 925. Why aim low at just 920? But yeah, so they've said they're going to do something, but they don't know what yet. What was it? What were we saying? I've got it up here. We'll likely need to make some adjustments, blah, 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 blah. So, and it's not just that trinket. They said that they're indicating they're going to make changes to other trinkets as well. They've only surely got Monday to do this, and I assume it must be fair. It can't be anything massive, because they've then got to implement it ready for North America maintenance, really. It only really gives them Monday, doesn't it? It must do. Because then there's surely a tech team that's actually got to implement it. So it can only be numbers, I guess. I think all they can do is massage numbers a bit, rather than fundamentally change the way anything works. But I don't really know about that, what they're going to be doing. Yeah, well, I did a Vault of the Wardens a couple of weeks ago, and the guy we were boosting got a really high item level faulty countermeasure. And the rest of my group were basically going, just ask him if he wants it. And I was going, of course he's going to want it. But then someone did anyway. They just asked him, party, do you need, it was a death knight, do you need that faulty countermeasure? And he basically went, yeah, of course I do. And I thought, yeah, of course. But that's just one of those things. That's unfortunately how it works. But yeah, as I say, Horn of Valor, Horn of Valor's got the advantage of, because it just buffs your stats, it's useful in any situation, whether it's single target cleave, full on AoE, whatever. And it doesn't necessarily matter which one sims best. I just quite like the idea of one that give stat increase. Let's have a look. Read comments. I actually found I did better on the cleave fights. I found the one fight, I haven't done all of them on Heroic yet. I've still got to do the last two. We did a few pulls on Heroic Elisand. Unfortunately, we were without one of our healers. At the moment, we've got 4 healers in the guild. So when one of them's absent, it's a bit of a problem. And when we had like loads in the Heroic group as well, getting people to do it for off-spec. So I'm actually at the moment, I'm trying to recruit a healer. But it's a lot harder to recruit a healer than it is a DPS. Because a DPS, you go through all the things. I might do a video on how, how I'm doing my recruiting, and then but you go to logs, you look at logs. You don't go just by percentiles because people might be whoring on them. But it's easy to see if a DPS is whoring. But at least you should have some decent percentiles. Whereas with a healer, you haven't got a clue. You've got no idea. My opinion on the raid, I like it. It's got a nice variety of types of fight. So far, it's actually looking quite good. I'm quite pleased about it. But yeah, there was one fight, the Star Augur, which is the only fight I ever did on any form when it was in alpha or beta. I can't remember which part, but in the testing. It was an LFR version. I didn't actually do it with the group. But yeah, I've done that on heroic and normal now since it's gone live. And on both of them, I did really rubbish damage. I haven't yet had time to go through the logs and check why. But my damage was really low. Compared to the rest of the raid, that is. I'm not talking about percentiles or anything like that. But as a ret as well, the only fight that I'm finding nightmarish is Elisan. But I think that's just the way we're doing it. We have too much movement. There is a lot of movement inherent in that fight. But I just don't think the way we're doing it is very efficient. So it's a complete bobbins for me. Spending too much time running between targets and not enough time hitting them. Hello, Nico. So, but yeah, Augur's a really weird one. And then some other people were saying they were doing quite bad damage on that. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. There's no reason for it. But the other fights seem fine. And we'll have to see, I suppose, because the other thing, I have to scroll down here because I can't actually get all my things in there. If I get rid of that and then get rid of that, of course, the other change incoming is Blade of Justice. So what I've noticed looking at some logs is quite a few paladins have taken Divine Hammers for fights where I'd have thought, really? But it's because you lose so little on single target. Like I know, I've taken it in dungeons and you don't really lose a lot on bosses. And it's really good for trash. And then you get a fight like the fight Tichondrius, for me, is the typical one for this, where like as melee on normal in hero, you're not really going to do DPS on the blobs. They're taking away range deal with those. So the only AoE to be done is the bats, and that's like a few seconds. And the rest of it is single target, including the periods of time when you're going to use your Crusade. So, you'd think, well, Blade of Wrath or Virtue's Blade. But a lot of them were taking Divine Hammer and doing a lot of damage with it because you can do loads of damage with it on the bats and you're not losing much on the boss. So, hi, Pink. With this change to Blade of Justice, they've actually said one of the things they want to do is to make it so that you're not going to take Divine Hammer on fights where you really ought to think of it as a single target fight. Yeah, the device, because you're just not losing, because I thought it was always pretty good anyway, so I'm going to have another little drink. But, excuse me. Then they knackered the haste. It wasn't like scaling with haste properly. They sort of broke it just before 7.1.5. Then they fixed it again. But then they also buffed it for 7.1.5. So it's now doing stonking damage on AoE. And it's decent on single target. So it's like, if you're not sure why, it's the safe option. And I think it's not unreasonable to say that with talents there shouldn't be a safe option. You should actually take the talents for what you see is going to be your main role. If it's single target, then take single target talents. Stay competitive on Mythic Progress, yeah. I think we always have. I would say this even in the worst moments of like the Legion Alpha, when it looked like everything was going to hell in a handbasket. The one thing I could always say is we always sort of have been competitive for most of the... I mean, I could always point to the fact that previously you might not see Rets in like the very, very top guilds, apart from maybe in the Asian servers. But with, the level I've played, I've always felt perfectly competitive, and I didn't really see that changing. Doesn't mean to say I'm not frustrated at certain things, but in terms of, competing for my spot, I don't feel that that's an issue. Perceptions, I think, sometimes are more damaging than the actual reality of it. What talents take on Gul'dan? I'll let you know when I've worked it out. Divine Hammer was one I certainly thought. The thing is, I've only done normal Gul'dan, and there's like, well, there was a discussion in the guild whether we're a 3-day raiding guild and we don't do split runs. So there was a discussion about whether we do normal first or heroic first. Now the argument there is heroic first because of gear, because you then can coin on bosses for the items you really want, and if you don't get it, then coin on normal. But what you really don't want to do is get a piece of loot on normal and then get the heroic version of it, because then you just wasted the normal version. But at the same time, if you do it on normal mode first, you might wipe a bit less because you're starting to see some of the mechanics when they're in more forgiving state. But the normal was tuned so low. I'm not saying too low, but it was tuned so low on Gul'dan. You didn't see most of the mechanics. You were just beating stuff up. I did die, I have to say. I did die. The one mechanic that would kill me did kill me. But at the time, I had a sneaky look at my damage meter, and I was top of damage at that time. And I was taking Divine Hammer because there's 3 mobs sort of tanked pretty much on top of each other for a lot of that fight. So I think that one. I don't think Consecration, because there's a lot of single target focus as well. And I suppose at the end of it, when you're really just on Gul'dan, then that's got to be a focus there. And in my case, Fires of Justice, because I have the Legendary Cloak. And obviously Crusade. The nerf is not going to change that for Crusade. Is there any fight where I would take Consecration? Maybe. Botanist is a possibility. The reason I didn't take it on Heroic, I didn't actually take it on normal either. I was thinking of taking when we did the normal run, but I think it was an issue with the tank. We haven't got our 2 normal tanks. Like, one of our tanks is off skiing, so we drafted another one in, and the coordination wasn't like what it will be when we're doing this thing on Mythic. So they weren't always tanked right on top of each other, the different forms of the boss. And Consecration is only good once you've got multiple ones on anyway. But there is a possibility you could say that. I don't know that there is one that I would straight away say yes, definitely. I think it's just one of those maybe. I think it's like Botanist, possibly. Maybe Tichondrius, if we get to a situation where on Mythic, as a melee, we have to go and DPS the blobs. Maybe that's not just something that's left to the range. I don't know. Some of the fights your role might change a bit on that. Obviously, the first boss, if you're going to cheese it, then you would. But I'm not into like padding and stuff like that. And if you're not padding, the ads die so quickly it's not worth using Consecration either. So I'm not thinking of using Consecration very strongly. As in, maximising your chance of beating the encounter. But there may be some. Cloak and Belt Legendary. If I loot the ring, should I make a replacement now? If anything, the ring, I have the ring. The ring is the main legendary that will have been devalued by these changes that are coming next week. The slight, and it is a slight nerf to Crusade. If anything, hits Liadrin's Fury Unleashed hardest. So, and already I would say, maybe in an AoE situation, for me personally, the ring sims a little better than the cloak. If I had the belt as well. If I had the belt, the ring sims a bit better than the cloak for AoE. Or even on its own. But there's not much in it. So I would still say the cloak. And the other thing about the cloak, of course, is that is useful outside of Crusade. And remember that the actions they're trying to take here are to reduce our reliance on Crusade. The fact that so much of our damage comes, over half of our damage comes from an ability that we can use roughly a quarter of the time. Obviously, the overall uptime depends on fight length and our use of it. But usually you would expect Crusade to be up for round about a quarter of the time, but we do over half our damage from it. So yeah, hi Arthuri. So yeah, I say anyone's got any questions, do throw them out there. Mostly this is going to be like for the sort of things that people want to actually sort of discuss together. When do you take Zeal? When Sims tell you to. If you've got the cloak, for me, Zeal had been simming best DPS for single target cleave AoE, whatever I could tell it to sim for quite a while before 7.1.5 came out. Then the patch came out, and I instantly got the cloak. Like literally a few minutes before the raid was about to start, I got the cloak. At that point, Fires of Justice was simming higher. And I strongly suspect it's going to be the case for a lot of people that you're unlikely to find Zeal being the one to take if you've got the legendary cloak. No, I'm not doing Mythic Emerald Nightmare. I did that I did a raid last time when I tried to do this, and I couldn't concentrate on the raid, and I couldn't concentrate on what people were saying. No. I'll be on in an hour or so. Consecration Mythic Plus, yes. I've tried both. I actually did several Mythic Plus dungeons at a variety of levels this week, and tried different things in each one as well. And there's two types of Mythic Plus dungeon as well, by the way. There's the ones you do to boost people and are therefore well within your capabilities. Those are the ones where you're going to pull multiple packs. Definitely Consecration. There is no argument. Use Consecration and use it. As soon as you get into that pack, drop it, first of all. The other type is the one where it's more difficult. You're doing it for yourself in a guild group and you can't be pulling multiple packs. In that case, it might depend on the dungeon. Some dungeons have large packs whether you like it or not, and some don't. And the ones that don't, maybe it's not going to be as good. I would think things like Neltharian's Lair, maybe you'll get less use from Consecration than maybe Final Verdict, where some single target focus is more important. Especially with Necrotic. Like, we've got Rage and Necrotic at the moment. Like, okay, the Necrotic means you want to try and AoE a lot, but the Raging means sometimes you've just got a single focus, some mobs down, so the Final Verdict would be a bit better there. But then when it's back to teaming or something, then, yeah, Consecration definitely again. I might miss the odd comment as well. I've got to try and keep up with these. Increased our haste percentage value, not decrease. Well, they've done it for everyone. You just have to get more haste. I am active, since I've got the cloak, actively seeking more haste now. I think I've got about 26%. I'll have to double check on that. Mythic Emerald Nightmare, only paladins. No. We'd easily be able to deal with brambles, I suppose, on Cenarius. But we'd struggle to do ranged interrupting on Il'gynoth. What do I think of the playstyle where you have a window to dump your DPS in Judgment Line Colossus? I said what I thought of that playstyle quite a lot and quite vocally all the way through Legion Alpha. It is not enjoyable, but it doesn't matter about enjoyment is subjective. You know, that's entirely subjective. I focus more on the fact that, as I said, basically a year ago, or 10 months ago at any rate, the problem is if you can't maximize your use of damage at that time, you're buggered, and that's exactly the problem that we have now. Yeah, but with Paladins can only bubble once. Even with Divine Intervention, it's every 4 minutes now. It's rubbish. I used to be indestructible in fact, this patch, I now die in dungeons. This never used to happen, or hardly ever used to happen. I now die in dungeons because I had, first of all, a 2.5 minute cooldown on Divine Intervention. I also had the Legendary Braces, which, okay, I still have. But then I got the Cloak, so I sort of felt the need to use 2 DPS Legendaries. I got another... It's actually quite funny. I tweet because I got the Cloak when the patch went live. So that's what, about a week and a half ago. And then I tweeted, because obviously every time you do an emissary cache, as soon as you've got a legendary, you sort of know it's not going to contain a legendary. And I tweeted, how long do you have to go before you've had a legendary, before you're disappointed not to get one in your emissary cache? And then I got another legendary last night. So there's a week and a half between my 4th and my 5th. But it was the neck, which I'm actually quite happy about, but I'm not going to use it. But I could, I suppose, just to feel indestructible again, not use DPS legendaries in tougher dungeons and just go with my legendary braces and the neck again, and be unkillable. But yeah. Where are we? I mean, the thing, I had something as well to show. I'm just going to switch on to the other one. Hopefully, oh, it's done this before. Comments aren't appearing, never mind. Hopefully they'll appear here if someone puts something in. I was just going to sort of show an example of the effect of our crusade and how annoying it is. Because this is something that used to be the case during, I remember, early MOP as well. Certainly my experience. Where at the start of a fight, I mean, there's a big build-up with crusade. So unlike in early MOP, it doesn't shoot straight up. But as Crusade's steadily ticking away, you can see it ticking there, it just goes higher and higher and higher. And this isn't necessarily a great... This is our first kill, by the way. It's not necessarily fantastic. But it goes to the top of damage. And then Crusade wears out. And what's going to happen is it's going to start dropping down. So if I try and shift along a bit... let me just stop this then. Hold on. Let's just pause it. Got a question. Should you swap your versatility to haste? Yes. I mean, sim yourself. The thing is, always sim yourself with these things. But I would be very surprised if those sims did not tell you to gem haste. I've gemmed haste. If you've got a shitload of mastery, dump it. I mean, obviously, it's not like if you've got like a 900 item level thing that's got mastery on it, swap it for an 850 item that hasn't. That'd be silly. But again, you're just going to have to use sims to see, you know. But it's some. That's just really unfortunate. Getting 40%. I don't know how that would happen. What's your item level? What's your overall item level of gear? Because that would be an indicator. I'd be very surprised if someone with raid gear had 40% mastery, because it's actually quite easy to avoid mastery on. It's going to be a little bit more difficult with there being so much mastery on our tier gear. But in terms of other pieces, it's not like we're forced into mastery. For every armor piece that I can think of, there is a decent piece that doesn't have mastery on it. So you can't avoid mastery completely, but you can largely avoid it. 877. Yeah, you can't link, sorry. What I would say is, if there's any crafted gear that you can... I don't know what does Obliterum take it up to now? It's 10, hold on. 10, is it 865? So if you've got... If any of those items that have mastery on them are not as high as 865, then you can get an 865 piece of crafted gear, or a piece of crafted gear with better stats on it, and you upgrade it to 865 yourself. I'm pretty sure, yeah, thank you, 865. And then you could replace it directly with that. If part of the reason for having mastery is because that's, you know, your best legendary just happen to have mastery on it, I can't think offhand which ones do. I think we're okay with legendaries generally. I don't think too many have mastery. Which piece of the tier set would take over the legend? Would you take? The pieces of tier I'm actively seeking. I've already got the gloves, which are not ideal. Well, very few of them are ideal. I've got the gloves and the shoulders. I'll also be going for the legs and the helm. The back is... Obviously, I've got the legendary cloak, so I'm not going to be taking the back. The chest is not preferable, even though there isn't a legendary chest, because chests tend to have quite a high budget for stats, which means you're going to get more mastery by taking the tier chest than by taking another mastery piece like the gloves, for example. So, and also there's a very nice haste versatility chest. I've got the Odin one, which is decent enough. There's another one in there as well, off like the 4th boss. Just got the... Hold on. Oh, no, I can't scroll up. Bugger. Oh, I can. I can scroll. Great. Just got the shoulders today and keep wondering if you should wait with your Wake of Ashes until you got 15 stacks of Crusade to get more TVs. That's a good question. I hadn't... Yeah. I don't think so. Sometimes, although you might think you're maximising that Wake of Ashes, you're not necessarily maximising over the course of the fight by doing that. But I can see where you might be coming from with that. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? The thing is, Crusade never stacks up to doing double damage, and you might lose a whole Wake of Ashes by delaying that long. And you'd sort of, to lose out on a whole application, you sort of have to do double damage just to break even. So I would say overall, no, don't delay your Wake of Ashes. Just benefit as you benefit from it. Yeah. For tier, I don't know. I'd steer clear of the chest personally. I mean, you can sim them anyway. You can just run your own sims for yourself. But I would steer. Should you upgrade cloak or belt first? That is a good question. I've upgraded my cloak, but that's because it was against the ring and not the belt. If I had the belt, which would I upgrade first? I think I'd probably still go for the cloak, just because it is useful in different parts of the fight as well. But in terms of which one is actually best as a fact, I don't know. You would have to again sim that. Sim yourself with a 940 version of each one, with 910 version of the other one. Unstable Arcana Crystal, that's the Withered Gym one, isn't it? I get this right, because there's two trinkets that in my mind get mixed up. But that's the one with the gym. That is actually, if you can get that at high item level, that's actually a really good trinket. Pretty much any stat stick that has suitable stats, preferably, at high item level is always going to be a good safe bet. Because it just straight up buffs everything. It's not just useful during Crusade or useful during AoE but not so much single target or anything. It just straight up buffs everything about you. And it's useful everywhere equally. No, I wouldn't delay Wake of Ashes, as I say, because you'd have to get more benefit than you will do from the Crusade in order to allow yourself to risk missing out on an application. Anyway. But yeah, I'll just keep this going again now. If I have a look here, so it's coming off cooldown quite soon. Because what happens is, as soon as it comes off cooldown... Now, I can't... This is the annoying thing about Guam. I can't actually use it because he's about to do his charge, so I have to hold on to it. Pissing annoying. So then he's going to do his charge. I'm hoping someone's going to die. No one dies. Really annoying. I'm going to wait for him to do his knockback, which he knocks you up in the air now. And then I'm going to be using it. So... bit of a delay for some reason. I think the reason I delayed it there, this is the first kill, I was really hoping someone was going to die. I'd get Retribution proc. But anyway. And what's going to happen, of course, is, again, it's ramping up. And now it's ramped up, it's just going to start going up here. And people talk about, you know, other classes having powerful cooldowns as well, like mages and stuff. But their DPS doesn't oscillate up and down like ours. You know, they're sustained in between is not so bad. So, you know, oh, someone did die. So it just goes up again. And then when it's worn off, it just starts coming down again. And it just does this up and downy thing. Up and down. Which is really annoying. Right, I'm just going to read this question. And then I'm going to go over back to the other side. And hope it keeps up with the comments. Triple Wrath of the Ashbringer relics now. I've got 2 now. But I'm taking item level drops to get them. Yeah, the Ashbringer will help the shoulders. Shoulders? The shoulders aren't for Crusade. The shoulders buff Wake of Ashes. What's the ideal haste for Retribution Paladins? It depends. There's breakpoints. What happens is you get to a certain point at which point you can do something, and after you've got that point it drops off a bit. It's always still quite high, you always get benefit from it, but I'm just going to quickly go back, so I'm just going to quickly, oh no, cloak and belt will be useful in all situations. Yeah, I will just still go with those. But yeah, so yeah, I would say cloak and belt for all situations. The the scumbagging DPS video I did was supposed to be a bit tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't supposed to be serious, because although the only reason we did it was because it was like a heroic run, and by taking an extra character, you got an extra 20% chance of another item. And also I had 3 coins on it, and you never know. But yeah, I got 20% extra damage during Crusade, which is very nice. But you've got 0% from an entire player. So it does, you don't get any good rank. Even as an individual, you don't get better DPS than you would have done without them. My DPS at the end of the fight was still lower than it would have been had I not taken them. So it was only because we're not that bothered about ranks. And, well, I certainly wasn't. Sorry, what was I going to... Now, one little question. What do people think? Because I want to just show you something here. So, this is my handsome little chappie. And this is what my handsome little chappie might look like by the end of Nighthold. We've seen the new tier 20 set. Not Nighthold, sorry, it's Tomb of Sargeras. They've basically redesigned. It's going to be all the same as tier 6, but they've redesigned versions with different recolours as well, which is the key thing. I don't know what people think about this. I think it's basically... I mean, this one looks almost exactly the same. Just higher definition. Yeah, that's what tier 20 is going to be, which is, as I say, the patch 7.2 Tomb of Sargeras tier. It's tier 6, what was in Black Temple and Mount Hyjal. Sorry, Black Temple and Mount Hyjal. High definition versions of it. If you go, I mean, I got this off MMO Champion. They've got them on the front page at the moment. All the different recolours as well. There's quite a few. There's about half a dozen for each one. For the relics, even after the Nerve Crusade, better have Holy Fire of Avenging Wrath. Yes, it will still be the Biss one, just not by as much. So what we'll have to reevaluate is how much of an item level drop is it worth getting, because both, like I just got a Holy Relic with a Wrath of the Ashbringer trait, and I took an item level downgrade to get it. Was it downgrade or was it exactly the same? I think it was a slight downgrade, like 5 item levels. And the Fire Relic I have, at the time was an upgrade even for item level, but I now have a higher item level one in my bags. So we'll have to sort of work out what item level is worth dropping, because it won't be quite as much. I think it works out at about 12 item levels compared to Might of the Templar, and maybe a little bit more compared to some others. I'm not sure. Don't want to say that for certain. But yeah, I'm sure it'll still be worth. It'll certainly still be the best relic. I've no doubt about that. It's just, yeah, how much better? I don't know. The boots. Nothing wrong with those boots. The worst thing about getting the stuff, though, is you couldn't get the belt from Black Temple because that was the PvP colours. So you had to get that from like a badge vendor in Shatra City or something. If I remember rightly, anyway. I think there was something about the BOE belt not... No, it was a trash belt, sorry, not BOE. There was a trash belt that wasn't the right colour. But I don't know. But the boots were alright. There's nothing wrong with these boots. I don't think so anyway. We'll have to see. But yeah, it is, it looks alright. I mean, in terms of the overall design, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of just the art style in many ways of characters in World of Warcraft, but they are what they are. Because you always get these huge, big, chunky hands and things like that. The legendary trinket, it's even been buffed. Very tasty. People in my guild keep getting it. We've had quite a few get it this week. The thing is, though, you can sort of imagine it on Scorpion now. You know that people are, with that trinket, every time a shockwave comes in, they're hovering over the activation key. Whatever they've got it bound to unleash hell as soon as those ads come in. So, yeah. But in general, it looks like for dungeons, I'd love to have it for dungeons. I'd absolutely love it. because sometimes, like the way I use Crusade in dungeons, on packs, that is, I don't even these days care if I keep it for bosses even. You know, you get more use for it on most trash packs. Some bosses are really awkward and you want to kill them quickly, fair enough. But for other parts, it's mostly the trash you want to use it on. And you can, and I usually save it. I usually think to myself, I'll use Crusade in the next sort of minute or so. But there's a couple of trash packs coming up that might be difficult. I'll wait to see if it gets tricky. And if it gets tricky or we add, then I'll use it. And that'll be a good time to use that trinket as well. The 7.2 data mine things, I haven't seen them. I've been quite busy today, actually. So if they've only just appeared today, I'm afraid I haven't seen them. I haven't even been on the PTR yet, because when I tried, there were no servers up. There are now servers up, but I haven't yet had time to go onto them. So if you can describe what they are, let's have a look. Hang on. When your greater blessings are active, gain blessing of the Ashbringer. Blessing of the Ashbringer grants. Is this a passive thing? When your greater blessings are active, gain blessing of the Ashbringer. So you get 2,500 attack power. Avenging Wrath reduces the cooldown of judgment by 50%. Is that a gold? I assume that's a gold trait. I suppose it'd be good for fights where you're having to switch target a bit, having a shorter cooldown on judgment during, because it's particularly annoying during Crusade. What trinkets would I prefer for dungeons? Might of Crossus, I suppose. The trinket of Crossus. But I don't do dungeons that much, so I didn't like we gave it to a warrior who wanted it for dungeons when it dropped this week. We didn't realise that Blizzard were thinking of maybe making it a bit better as well. So we might have looked out there. But yeah, that's the one I'd go for. If I did more dungeons, then that's the one I'd probably quite like. As well as a good strong stat stick. That's always nice. Or a very high item level Horn of Valor. That'd be nice. Or I suppose the Arcana... No, is it? Yeah, Arcana Crystal. Is that one? I always get mixed up between that and Chrono Shard. Not the one from Archway, the one from Withered Gym. DS still better. My mind's gone blank. Hang on. What's DS mean? My brain's melted. It keeps trying to tell me DS means Divine Storm. It means something else. But it won't let me. It won't let me realise what it does mean. For single target, do you mean? DS still best for single target. Oh, Divine Hammer. No, it's not. No, it's not best for single target at all. And it certainly won't be. Like, at the moment, it's still not best for single target right now. It's just that it's okay on single target. And if you've got any cleave at all in the fight, you might as well take it, because it'd be really good on that cleave. Even if 90% of the fight is single target. But after they're not nerfing Divine Hammer, but they're buffing Blade of Justice. So at that point, the aim should be that won't be the case, that you will actually be losing out by, on a single target fight, even if it's just a mostly single target fight, not taking single target Blade of Justice. Diversity between rets in what regard? Like for the best in slot, you can't have a best in slot because of Titan Forging and a number of other things as well, like legendaries. I mean, those are the two chief things, really. I mean, sockets have a lesser effect on that. So I mean, legendaries are a big thing. For example, like the cloak is okay for us out of all the 6 tier pieces. That's decent. But if you've got the legendary cloak, you're not going to use it because the legendary cloak's really good. But at the same time, you might look at a chest. Let's say you're comparing two items, and one has got haste, crit, or haste versatility, really good, and the other one has got, say, crit mastery. Well, we don't want the crit mastery. But if it was 20 item levels above, well, we would. So that's what makes it really difficult. And if you try and follow Abyss list, you are going to go wrong, because Titan forging is a thing, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And it happens frequently enough. Like, when they first started talking about this in Legion Alpha, the impression that I got from it was it's going to be really rare to get high item level Titan forgers. Hasn't seemed to be that rare at all. It's still uncommon, but it doesn't seem to have been that rare to me. Hang on, can I scroll up again? Now, this is weird. On this one, oh, it does. Oh, I see. I mean, I can't even use this thing. Hang on, I've missed something. Yeah, the gold traits. But no, I haven't. Yeah, coming back to the new traits in 7.2, I haven't really seen them yet. I will have a look later. But again, the stuff for 7.2 is going to be a few months off, and things are bound to change. And things like that are really bound to change, because new traits, they just pull those out their arse. This is, now that they've been sort of made public, if they have been, well, they have been, you just said so. This is going to be the first time they come across any form of real discussion about them outside of Blizzard. So, yeah. And what else? Hold on, I had something else. I'm going to get rid of those. I think someone was asking about talents. Just remind you, I mean, these are the ones that I've been using in dungeons most of the time. Like, you could use Blinding Light as well instead of Fist of Justice. Fist of Justice is sort of slightly nerfed, really. But I still find it quite useful, especially in something like Maw of Souls, because you can use it quite frequently in those packs after the second boss, like Mist Callers and things like that, and it's then back up again to stun again, as in like an interrupt. I'm just going to take another drink. Oh dear. I'll just see if I missed any other questions, if people are going to ask other ones as well. Oh, there was one I missed there about the I better put this back then, hadn't I? The headpiece. The thing with like Paladin headpieces, I don't think they've ever done a good job of those for Ret. I'm trying to think of if there's been any. I mean, the crown was simply okay, but even then I didn't use it. I hid Helm. Do you think Blizzard will appropriately balance the Convergence of Fates to the point where it's viable again? Yes, I do. Do I think they'll appropriately balance it? No, I don't, because I don't think that the whole concept of the way it works allows for that to be balanced. Because you've got a situation where you're talking about a trinket that can be used by all, like, there's two trinkets, but they do the same thing for different types of DPS. And they do the same thing. They allow you to knock off or reduce the cooldown of your major DPS cooldown. But DPS cooldowns are not homogeneous. They have very different effects for very different classes. And the way they work for Rets is so different to most other classes that they can't balance it properly. I don't think they can anyway. But to the point where it's viable again, yes, they've actually said they're going to do that. But all I can see them doing is putting the proc per minute, not necessarily back up to as high as it was, but up. So that we'll get some... I don't know what that would mean, though. So where it used to be, is you might, on average, across a fight, get to use your Crusade roughly every 1 minute, 20 seconds, roughly. But now, with the changes, it's going to be like 1 minute, 50 seconds. It's hardly even worth it. What's the in-between? What's the suitable in-between? I don't know. Hi, Retribution Paladin. Am I looking to the new appearance quest for the Ashbringer? No. Because I have the very best... Oh, you won't be able to see it properly. It's on his... Oh, no, not that one. I already have the best version. And it didn't take very much to do. Which is... It's on the back, but... It's the one you get for getting the 30 4 traits or whatever it is. And that, for me, is the best version. So, and this is why I've only just done my plus 15 for dungeons, Mythic Plus dungeons. And I knew I would get it this week because there's now a reason to get it for gear. And I knew it was going to be quite embarrassing in some ways because I should have got it ages ago. There's no reason why I shouldn't have got a plus 15 a long time ago for the achievement. But I'm not interested in achievements that don't give me anything. And I wasn't interested in that recolor. And I'm not interested in the Shattered Ashbringer because that's the one that's coming with 7.2. I will do the quest. I might be interested in doing the quest because it's like a good old class quest line. So yeah, I will want to do that, but I won't be interested in I won't adopt the Shattered Ashbringer at the end of it. So yeah, I'm more than happy with the version of the Ashbringer I now have. In fact, can I? No, that's the old version. Let's cover it back up with that one. That's better. But yeah, no, I quite like that one. And it doesn't really, I mean, it's like, I keep saying about the Shattered Ashbringer, it's like, you spend, I mean, how long World of Warcraft been out now? I think it's been out nearly 12 years in Europe, more than 12 years in North America. And, you know, it's taken us all this time to get the Ashbringer. Why would I then want to break it? It doesn't make sense to me. Now again, while we just wait if anyone else has got any other questions. One question that was asked, I'm just going to move these rather than close them down. So I did have one sort of question that was sort of put in. It says they won't be able to make the Q&A. Do I have a question regarding recent sims? Really always awkward. So ever since the patch update, haste has become my #1 stat, followed by strength. This doesn't seem to be changing as I keep stacking haste, currently at 27%. I'm really just curious why the sudden change. I thought haste capped around 22 to 24%. No, it doesn't, and it never did. There are breakpoints in haste. There's not caps. There's not soft caps. There's nothing like that. And so, like, the way it sort of works in terms of its value, it sort of goes up like that, and then you get to a particular point and it stops and it comes back down. And it's like you're on the upward bit. And until you get to that sort of peak and it comes down a bit, after which it'll come back up again at some point, a bit of like a sawtooth type situation, then it will still tell you it's a really good stat to get. Now, why it's done it in your particular case, I couldn't possibly know. There's nothing about 7.1.5 as such that would have improved that, other than the fact that your haste would have come down when 7.1.5 came out, because all secondary stats came down because you need more stats to get 1%. And it might have been that you were at a good percentage before and it sort of dropped down. And if you know, for me, it's going to keep telling me haste is really good because I've got the cloak, and you know, it wants me to have more. So in terms of the specifics about why this particular person has, you know, haste is their best, I don't know. But the reason why it's simming to be the best is just because, as I say, it thinks that you can realistically get some great benefit out of it if you just put a bit more into it. More so than the other ones. What stats am I maining? Haste crit. Haste crit are the ones I'm sort of favouring. Obviously, I have to judge each piece of potential upgrade gear on its merits. But by and large, I'm thinking in terms of crit and haste. Versatility would be nice, but versatility, there are a few pieces with versatility onto it, not loads, so there's no point in chasing that. The other good thing, I'll tell you the good thing about versatility as well, in terms of not having lots of it, is you get much better benefit from the runes, the Vantus runes. So when you're coming up to a really tough boss, whichever boss is the tough one that week for you, you use the Vantus rune for that boss. That's 1,500 versatility onto it. So if you've got very little versatility, that's loads. That's quite a lot. because like with any secondary stat, you get sort of almost diminishing returns on it. So yeah, if it starts off pretty low, suddenly adding 1500 to it is very, very nice indeed. Versatility did take a bigger hit. There's no seeming about it. It took a bigger hit. Versatility. For whatever reason, and it might have been related to the defensive aspect to it. I don't know. But yeah. Or just the fact that people were complaining that the boring stat, as a lot of people call it, is was simming so high for so many people. Because it was for a lot of people, because you had so little of it, being the number one stat that Simcraft was telling you to get. What do you think about the new traits? We have discussed the new traits a little bit about 7.2, but I've not looked them up, so someone had to describe to me a couple of them. They seem fine from what I've seen of them. I'm more concerned about the fact I've just got to 50 on my artifact at the moment, and by the time I've got the other 4 in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be sick of it. But I know that when it comes to 7.2, I've got to start it all up again. To still favour. You should be led by Sims, because they carry out calculations that are realistically too complex for us to do ourselves, or would take too long to do, or both in most cases. So I would definitely be led by it. But the other thing to bear in mind with Simcraft is you have to bear in mind when it gives you your stat weights, that's like a snapshot in time. It's not telling you where it's going as such, or where it's come from. So it doesn't allow you to extrapolate. It's a point on a graph. So that's why you have to sort of keep doing it. Is there any use for Holy Wrath? Apparently not. I was forced to do PvP this week, or compelled to do it, because of the essence that we'd get, because I knew it would allow me to upgrade a legendary more quickly by doing a weekly PvP objective. And I decided to use Holy Wrath. Thought I'll pretend I know what I'm doing in PvP. I'll change some talents around. Holy Wrath, I didn't kill anyone with it. And if I don't kill someone with it, it's useless. I might as well have Crusade. But my thinking on it was in PvP. The problem with Crusade is as soon as someone sees me pop my wings, maybe they will know how it works and just run away or something like that. That didn't happen. But I did think that by the time I get it to... Or that it might take longer to ramp it up, because people are not likely to stand still and just be clobbered by me. Oh, by the way, I'd have to say this. I've very naughty. I had another PvP related incident today, which I have to confess for the sake of my soul. I am not into like ganking people. I don't do this. I'm not into non-consensual PvP. Don't like it. But Death Knights have a bit of an issue. I noticed this when Legion launched. Like with Legion, I actually it's so long since I played it on Alpha and Beta when I didn't have add-ons that I can't remember whether this is a Legion feature or a feature of LVUI, the main add-on thing I use. But health bars are in the same colour as the class it is. So Paladins have pink health bars, Rogues have yellow health bars, and so on my screen. This is a problem for Death Knights, whose class colour is red. So I remember when Legion launched and I went to Asuna first. And there was demons. I was killing loads of demons. It's PvP realm. And I killed a Death Knight by mistake because I thought it was a demon. His transmog looked a bit demony. And I felt very bad about this. I did it again today. I was doing a world quest and there was a Death Knight there. I didn't see it. I just saw it as a mob. I was killing mobs. You know how you do it when you do it quickly. Get the world quest out of the way so you can go and get your cash. And sort of beating him up. And then I suddenly noticed like a nameplate came up that had a realm on it. I thought, well, this is strange. And then he suddenly started beating the shit out of me. At which point, of course, I'm committed. Like I'd have normally stopped at that point. I'd gone, oh, sorry. But obviously he then started attacking me back. Perfectly reasonable. Unfortunately, then it's him or me, so I had to kill him. I am thoroughly ashamed of myself. But Death Knight, there's just, yeah, they're hell. I'm just so used to the class colour, you know, telling you, but yeah, it doesn't. Death Knights are deceptively mob-like. Sorry, let's have a look at... So, but yeah, I don't know about PvP, but Holy Wrath has no real use in PvE, other than niche use in solo and stuff, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It needs reworking if they ever want to make anything out of it. Any tips for not losing hope when farming for that faulty countermeasure? No. I am not going to be honest, I have not farmed stuff. I have done very few Mythic Plus dungeons, actually. In fact, I don't actually deserve to have the legendaries I have with how little I've actually done to farm them. I've done other content, but I haven't done PvP, for which I don't think you get them anyway, because why would you? They don't even work. But I haven't done a lot of Mythic Plus dungeons. I do just enough. I do enough to keep my artifact power ticking away and to be able to get the maximum cash the next week. Yeah. But no, I felt bad about that. Like, even because, like, with the groups, like last night when we were doing Mythic Plus dungeons, the group I was with, my other guild mates, they were going after Horde whenever they saw them. They were ganking people. I just stand there by the stone, behaving myself. I only interfere if it looks like they're in trouble. Then I'll sort of have to get involved, just out of loyalty, really. But yeah, I don't take part in it normally. So I do feel quite bad when I accidentally kill someone. Sorry, was there anything else I missed? What was that about traits? The 20 traits above 34 will just transfer to the new traits, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know exactly how they're going to deal with the new stuff on the artifact. And in fact, redesigning it, because it already looks... They're going to have to sort of redesign the way it's mapped out to make room for these new traits. All I'm going to do on that one is... When I get the 54, which, as I say, should be... I'm at 50 now. It should be a couple... I generally get about a 2 a week or something. I'm missing out on some right now because they've all gone and done Mythic Emerald Nightmare. But, never mind. The... I could just put my artifact power then into protection and holy weapons. I don't use them though, and I know I don't use them, and I know I should, and probably learn how to play holy again. I sort of know how to play prop, but I just don't like tanking, and I'm not a good tank because I don't practice it. But the new Order Hall mount, I haven't really discussed it. I mean, I discussed it a little bit when it was announced at BlizzCon, but I haven't seen an animation of it. I want to see what it looks like flying. I don't know whether that's now out there, because when they showed it at BlizzCon, they showed you what it looked like. It's just a steed. So it's not even as good a steed as our Paladin one, I don't think anyway. Personal preference again. Some people may think it does look better. But it's what it looks like when it's flying that is key. I want a nice Pegasus thing. In fact, I remember I got Tyrael's Charger because I thought, well, that looks like a nice Paladin mount. But the wings are just not, they don't look right. They're not good. I want a proper Pegasus mount. Paladin only. At which point, yeah. I have seen the recolours, yeah. I would probably still go for the traditional one, if you mean the recolours of the tier 20. I could probably, hold on, I can get rid of that haste question now. Steve the Steed, yeah, I don't know. I don't name my steeds. I name other things. Why they removed the original Mount questline? I think it was probably just because it was an annoying irrelevance. Because you had to collect certain materials together. Like, because you have to think about it this way. Once Wrath was out, which I think is when they removed it, but I'm not sure exactly. Then, you know, certainly by that time, when you get to level 60, to be told to get like this thing, you've got to do a quest for it. There is no challenge. You can solo all the dungeon content. And then, but you've got to go around collecting this thing and spending gold on these things. Was just probably tedious rather than interesting to people, I suspect. And now, of course, you can't do it. I still have the brazier thing to summon the boss, the end boss in Scholarmance, but Scholarmance doesn't exist anymore. or at least not the original Scholarmans. And you can't get into the Osiris. So it doesn't work anymore, which is annoying. Because it took me a long time to get that Paladin Epic mount originally. It was a right old... Oh, it was, I can't even describe. Can't even describe what was involved to do that shit. But it wouldn't have yet, as I say, as good as the quest was originally, it wouldn't have been good as like a level 70 or 80 doing it. Because it's just, as I say, all you've got is the tedious aspects of it and none of the fun aspects of it. Because you wouldn't even need to have staggered your judges on those ghosts. You just blow everything up. Divine Storm it all. Hello. I'm not sure if you're just coming towards the end of it or whatever. As I say, we finish these off when we sort of run out of questions. So people have got questions. The time to throw them in is now. I mean, we've already gone through, I think, certainly the bits I expected to talk about. But I'll always just give it a little bit more if people want to carry on. Oh no, Floppy Dinky. So you're finally going to catch me live. Unless you ask something really quick, I'm afraid not. Because we're running out of questions. We've certainly gone through all the things I'd planned to discuss. Where we'll still be in terms of DPS? For most people, probably exactly where you were. Blizzard have said, and we'll take their word for it on this, until the theory crafters produce sims that say otherwise, that it will only affect the people who were really, really good at maximising use of their crusade. Quick recap on the Convergence of Fates trinket. It's very difficult to, because all we know is it was going to be really, really good for us. Then they made the effect a little bit useless for a number of reasons. Now they're going to do something to make it viable again, but we don't know. Oh, well, given that they only have a day to sort it out, because they said that this is going to appear in the next reset, and it's the weekend now, so although they might be thinking about it, they're not at work doing it, as far as I know anyway. So all they can realistically do is change the proc per minute up again a bit. So it'll land somewhere between the 1.2 it is now, useless, and the 4.2 it was before, which was deemed too powerful. I don't know where in the middle, and what I can guarantee is that the point they choose to put it on will not be something that has gone through rigorous testing, because we can see the effects of their so-called rigorous testing by the fact that this thing went live as it did and then had to be nerfed so severely, because they apparently didn't realise. So it will be a try it and see. So it will get buffed to a certain point next week. It may then get buffed or nerfed again the following week and the following week until they're happy with it. I don't know. That's unfortunately the only recap I can give on it. What I would say is if you got it, if you were lucky enough to have got it, you can still consider yourself lucky. You might not use it tonight, unless it was high item level and the strength's really good, but you are likely to be able to use it next reset. Have I discussed Mastery on the tier set? Not as such, but I will just say it's not an issue. I discussed this in my Essentials guide, I think the one I updated for the patch. It's not an issue because all Retribution Paladins are in the same boat. You've all got it. So if it turns out that with the extra amount of mastery we're all going to be getting, it's going to negatively affect our DPS, they'll see that our DPS is lower and retune stuff. So I don't see it as a problem at all. It would be a problem if, let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think now. Let's say a couple of pieces had amazing stats on, but they also happened to the pieces that occupied legendary slots. And if you had those legendaries, you couldn't get them or something. That would be an issue, but it's not. Do I stream raids? This is a really awkward question. I was going to start streaming raids, and I did stream raid, not this reset, but last reset. This reset, then, a couple of issues have stopped me doing that. One is that I was very ill, and I'd just be coughing on it all the time. The second one is that an officer now in the guild, and like at first I thought no problem, I'll just put an image over the chat box, which actually the first time I was recording didn't work, but you know, I can put on so officer chat isn't visible. But then every now and then we have to discuss who we're going to give loot to, so I can't stream that, so I won't be able to in terms of normal raid nights now. I am actually going to have to just change what it says on my offline thing. I will still probably go back to streaming Friday nights, Friday evenings, even though when I did that, again, I didn't do it yesterday, I was still quite ill, but I did it last Friday, and then it went into awkward. I had to delete the video, actually. So if people who, I don't know if anyone here was watching me stream when it was last Friday, but there was a bit of an issue with the guild. People were discussing. I had to say to people, I'm streaming here, by the way. So that was awkward. So yeah, streaming for me just goes weird. It just goes weird. I probably will increase the rates once I can work out what is sensible to stream. Because like a casual player can just stream their normal stuff and talk and blah, blah, blah. Most of the stuff I do, like I can just be doing World Quest or something if I stream Friday nights, but then I get into a Mythic Plus dungeon group. Well, at that point, I can still have the comments there, because even like a plus 15 is not gonna. It's not like Mythic Raid progress, you know. But I might not be able to talk as much just because you wouldn't necessarily hear what I was saying over other people, and I might need to talk to that group. And it's really so it's really weird streaming. But streaming raids now, no, because can't be broadcasting discussions about who we're giving loot to. I just can't do that. I haven't got any ability. I haven't got the capacity, or I don't know how to stop it streaming what's going on in Discord. Like that's the voice comms we use. If I could do that, then it wouldn't be an issue. Or if I could have a toggle just to turn that aspect off without stopping the rest of the stream. But I don't know how to do that, if it's even possible. Will Blade of Justice buff make any changes to the talent row with Blade of Wrath and Virtue's Blade? I can't say definitely not, but they're both buffed by 20%. I don't see why, if you were using one talent now, you wouldn't carry on using the same. But again, Simcraft will say the main difference is where you will use Divine Hammer or one of the other two. In a largely single target situation, it will affect that. And it is intended to affect that. Those are the talents I was using for the last dungeon I did. They're not what I use for raids. We use Loot Count, yeah, RCL Loot Council, yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, excuse me. I'm going to put the kettle on again. Virtual audio, oh no. Too noisy, sorry. Virtual audio cables to do that. I don't even know what that is, but I will try and make a note. And hang on, I will actually. I was going to make a mental note, but my mental notes are very bad. I mean, it could well be that one of my projects this year should be to learn more about streaming, because I know very little about it. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you, Bearded Sparrow. I don't use OBS, no. I use XSplit Gamecaster for streaming raids and stuff, or when I did stream raids. VAC? Oh, virtual audio cable. Good. I've made the connection there. Yeah, so I'll have a look at that then. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm just going to have to say no to progress raids. Because, yeah. What do I believe needs to change in order for Crusade to not continue to be a problem in the future? I'm not sure I'm qualified to say that, but I think an easy solution would be to not give us talents that change the nature of our DPS cooldown. Because it's all right. Like, because, I mean, where's that comment again? Because this says it all from Blizzard, really. Because they've said here, this is the issue. However, how that damage does matters. We've been seeing more and more that Paladins find the optimal way to maximize their performance is to focus everything they can on boosting their damage during Crusade. I wouldn't actually agree more and more. That's just always been the case as well as it's been in. This creates a number of problems, including Crusade feels mandatory. I mean, just that statement alone. Crusade, it's again one of these situations where feedback was presented to Blizzard. Like the Retribution Paladin community said to Blizzard during Alpha a year ago, a whole year ago, on a number of issues. Greater Blessing of Might, which has now gone, thankfully. But all these issues. And I would say Celestalon and Tom Chilton, who was the director at the time in particular, were really bullish about the defending of these things. And we were saying, you know, this is going to be the situation if this goes live. And they're like, no, it's not. And now they're finding it is. And they're blaming us. It's like, you what? You having a chuckle? You know, baffling. You know, it's our fault, you know. It feels mandatory. It is mandatory. And it's mandatory because it's the best in every situation, Crusade. Overall, they will not be a buff. Overall, the hotfixes next Wednesday will definitely not be a buff. They will not necessarily be a nerf. So, scenarios. 1, you were really, really good at maximising your DPS during Crusade. And I don't just mean using the right buttons during Crusade. I mean using Crusade at the optimal times to be able to get max damage. That might mean during cleave bits and stuff like that. It might include padding. You will find you've got a slight nerf. Scenario 2. You weren't that min-maxy about your use of Crusade. You just used it sensibly. In which case, apparently, you should not notice a great deal of difference at all, if any. Scenario 3. You didn't really min-max your Crusade again. You just used it sensibly. And you got yourself the Convergence of Fate's trinket. In which case, you might notice a slight buff because you shouldn't notice an overall nerf from the Crusade change, but you should notice an overall buff from the Convergence of Fate's trinket getting a bit of a buff, is as I see it. But it's not a buff. It's just shouldn't be a nerf for most players. But what actually happens, we will see when we see the results, won't we? And the following week, they'll make more changes. And what should happen is each week they should make fewer and fewer changes until they're reasonably happy with it all. I know what this is. Yeah. So, okay, last question. So it's fine. You can ask. This is what this is for. Questions. How is my Pally holding up against DPS warriors in raid? We only have one DPS warrior. He is a very good DPS warrior. I can't remember. I don't know. I haven't got any logs offhand to show. I've done reasonably well on the fights in general. The Star Augur was not great, and the Elisand wasn't great. But on some fights, I've come top or very close to top of damage. On some fights, not so much. I don't feel that, with warriors, it works very differently, of course. We load up all our damage during that Crusade window. They load up their damage. Well, they've got little periods as well through the fight, but mostly in execute range. Obviously, they're going to get a lot of use out of Draft of Souls. Because that was another thing with the trinket. No, hold on. Sorry. With the trinket thing, they've talked about looking at other trinkets. One of the first comments in this post, by the way, was, are you going to look at Draft of Souls regarding warriors? We don't know any. No, even Blizzard don't know how much the Koth trinket is being buffed next reset. They've actually sort of said, in fact, where was it? Where's the actual thing? We believe the change overshot the mark. We'll be making additional adjustments to make sure that it's still a good trinket for Ret. But they don't know what yet, because they haven't decided. All they've done is decide to do a change. They haven't decided what. So they'll presumably be having meetings about that next week on Monday. Yes, I can imagine the roller coaster of emotions if you actually got this trinket, from sheer delight to what? No. To, oh dear. And then back up to, oh, not so bad. How long have we been doing the Q&A? For about an hour and 15 minutes now. So I think it's sort of coming towards the end. But it will go on as long as people have got, I'll sort of delay by, because I know there's a delay of about 20 seconds between what I say and what you hear. So if anyone has questions, you can throw those out. Any reason you're using Memento at the moment? Because I don't have a lot of good trinkets. I was trying out. I got. Well, I didn't actually bid for it. Like, we were doing the normal Nighthold on Thursday, and for some reason I was being passed all the gear to disenchant. So at the end of the night, I'm disenchanting all the stuff, and then I noticed that there's an 870 trinket from the first boss, the stuff that does all the crystals, the cleavage type trinket. So I just substituted a crystal, chaos crystal, into the guild bank for it, and just thought I'll try it out myself. So I've tried it out a bit this weekend, and it's exactly the same item level as my Memento, but I'm not sure about it. I think the Might of Crosses one will probably be better, but I might hold on to it because if they are going to buff that as well, if they're looking at trinkets in general, it might be useful. I don't like the graphic though. It keeps throwing purple rocks up in front of me. Not keen on that. But yeah, the reason is simply that it sims best for me. It sims on pure single target. It's very close to my 850 faulty count measure, which is the best version I have of that. But in any other situation, it'll be better. And there's very few pure single target fights. And for dungeons, again, you know, I don't use it that much. So I use Memento or the Scorpion trinket. No luck with faulty count measure, no. I cannot, in all honesty, claim that I've been unlucky, though. There are some people that have done so many Vault of the Wardens runs. I haven't. It's like, if there's a Vault of the Wardens run up, I will, you know, I'm available to do any run. If anyone in the guild asks me to do a dungeon run and I'm free, then I'll do it. But I haven't like stayed online desperately looking for groups to do Vault of the Wardens like some people have. So I don't complain. But no, I haven't got a good one. Best talents of Mythic Plus. These are the ones I prefer, the ones I've got right down here. But again, it depends on situations. A couple of caveats is that if it's a really tough dungeon and you're not going to do big pulls, Consecration may not be as good. It depends on how big. Like with some dungeons, you can't help it. Like Blackrook Hold, I would still take Consecration because you can't help it. The packs are just big. But in some dungeons like Northarian's Lair, they're not. And especially with Raging, where you're going to have to sort of focus things down once it gets to a certain percentage. Again, if you're doing very, very difficult stuff. But if you're doing like quick runs at lower level just for artifact power, then still Consecration because you can do big pulls. We'll have a normal 4-set. I think we just have to say, yeah, you'd be if you've got access to 895 or higher gear, and you're having to get all your tier at normal level. I think you're very unlucky, because surely you must be doing heroic runs to be getting 895 gear reliably. So I don't think I've got any 895 pieces of gear apart from artifacts and legendaries. So I would, but yeah, you'd have to sim it. Ultimately, you do have to sim it. Like, there's nothing earth-breaking about our set bonuses. They just add a very nice amount of damage. They basically buff us. It's not like in Hellfire Citadel where we got 2 extra charges of Avenging Wrath. That set bonus you would take a massive drop for. You still take an item level drop to get these set bonuses because they're quite powerful. But how powerful they are in terms of item level, I don't know. You just have to sim it for yourself, I'm afraid. So I'm just... Sorry. Have I tried Horn of Valor? I have a Horn of Valor at only 840 though. So I have a long time in the past. I would like to do it again. But Halls of Valor is something that I do very few runs on. We did one last night actually. But very few of those. The 4-piece set works best with Cloak and Ring. No. I think like with the cloak, yes. Not with the ring. With the ring, you're more likely to overcap with the 4-set bonus. I think it works worse with the ring. because there's already a danger of overcapping with the ring. If you're not like I'm overcapping a couple of times now because I'm having to make this mental adjustment between it being every 2.5 seconds to 4 seconds now before your holy power. Whereas, but you've always got that danger of overcapping if you don't play it right. And with the 4-set bonus, where there's already that danger of overcapping anyway, you're more likely to overcap some of the Liadrin's Fury Unleashed holy power proc. Yeah. So no, I don't think it works very well with the ring at all. Blinding Light can be, but it depends on the dungeons you do. If the mobs are stunnable, stunning what? Like, you don't usually get a situation where everything needs interrupting right now. It's usually a thing needs interrupting. And the best way to interrupt a thing is to stun it. And like with Blinding Light, I can't do it again for another. So like More of Souls you do quite a lot if you think about it that way. And then you think about the trash from the second boss down to the last boss. There's like miscallers in there. I can stun several times while we're clearing those. I would only be able to use Blinding Light once. So that's the reason why. I did use Blinding Light. I used to use it quite a lot, but I use it less so now just because of that. I can use stuns, single stuns, much more often. And it's not like there's lots of situations where you just have to interrupt loads of casts at once. It's usually, if I use Blinding Lights, it's still probably against one cast. The only time where maybe Blinding Light, I suppose, Court of Stars, where you've got those imps. If your Wake of Ashes on cooldown, you can't stun them, and no one else can, then it could be useful to interrupt those. So Court of Stars, Blinding Light, yeah. Just for that specific set of mobs. Yeah, Cloak and Belt would surely be the best for the 4-piece. They certainly were when I simmed myself. Again, I can't speak. Well, my sim results, I can't say, are going to be the same as everyone else. Yes, yeah, tanks don't always like it in a situation like that when they might all then start. But I think the Imps in Court of Stars cast in Union anyway. But certainly, yeah, if you interrupt them all at the same time, they'll all start casting again at all at the same time. Just checking I haven't missed anything again. Right, again, so usual thing, we'll sort of wait. I'll definitely call it in about 5 minutes either way anyway, so we just don't have this slow death, because it'll have been going for an hour and a half then. But let's have a look. How powerful is the 2-set compared to the 4-set? Much more powerful. The 2-set, if you look at Sims, you're better off simming yourself technically, but Sims have been produced, and the 2-set is worth a lot more than 4. So I've been given the 2-set in my guild because it's quite powerful, but I won't be getting any more until other people have their, because other people's sets, especially at 4-set, are much more powerful. So I'll be coining or waiting on those ones because I don't get as much benefit from the 4-set. It's still useful, it's not bad, but not as good. Hold on, bugger. Archway trash that cast the portal. Yeah, but he's not even on high level. You just there's not loads of them. You stun them or kill them. What do I think of the worst legendaries for it at the moment? Ceph is a secret because there's a raiding point of view. For dungeons, I can see it being, or because you can interrupt and slow. All right, fine, whatever. But in a raid situation, you can't reliably do that, so that's pretty bad. I don't really rate the boots. It's a consolation prize at best. People will say, "Oh, you can speed around a little bit more." Yeah, no. The helm is very poor as well. Those 3, I would say, are the worst for me. I mean, what the neck? I mean, I actually got the neck last night. I'm all right with the neck. I don't mind the neck too much, and the braces I think are pretty good, just from a defensive point of view. Sorry, coughing again. I'm going to need a hot drink again in a minute. What's my favourite trinket? I can't really have a favourite trinket combo because I don't get any good ones. Horn of Valor, while it links up with Crusade, obviously if they change Convergence of Fates again, then Horn of Valor is off the menu again. In which case it would be Convergence of Fates. if it could line up with Draft of Souls, then it inevitably would be Draft of Souls as well. Even though I don't really like the way it works. Otherwise, just a good solid stat stick. So it'll have to be the last few questions because I'm going to have another cough, sorry. Yeah, my throat is just giving out now, sorry. So I'll get some last few questions done really quickly. Ignore the fact you might overcap with a ring. Theoretically, does it have a chance of at least beating the belt if you play well enough? I can't be certain because I haven't run any new sims since the change. But I don't. It would. No, I don't think so. Sorry, I can't. It's not. Right, two more. I should not switch to prot. Right, sorry. The old throat's given up. I will actually just call it there. I think we've got the last questions anyway. But if there are any other questions, obviously, Discord's really good for that as well. And I will be doing another one of these next month as well. But anyway, thanks for coming all. Sorry if people are still asking questions, but my throat. I'll upload this to YouTube for anyone who didn't watch it from the start. Try and cut out the rubbish coughing at the end. But yeah, thanks for coming, and until next time, I'll see you later.